Howdy Howdy, this is Clara Lawrence, and this is the piece that I did for Artapalooza, which is probably coming out right before the next Artapalooza. Anyway, so I want to talk you through what I did on the show because I know there were several artists there, and I know my internet was a little bit on the grouchy side that day, so I'm sure some of my stuff was pixelated, depending on, the speed of the internet at the time. So, life out in the country. So, we just make it work. I have a variety of different types of glitters that I'm going to use. Some of them I would consider almost like texture oriented stuff. And some black sand, as well as dragon teeth, which is kind of some triangular shaped metal that I guess if you want to call it, it's kind of like a chunky glitter, but it's just not your traditional glitter shapes and such. Several of those are by Color Passion, and they're really, really pretty. This particular one I'm putting on right now is a chameleon one, and so I'm going to play with a little bit of chameleons with the next part of my project that you're not seeing right now, but you'll see in a little bit. Anyway, so the liquid that I'm putting on right now obviously is some type of glue. It's a Weld Bond, and it's the glue that I use whenever I am doing any type of mosaics. And it's just, I have a gallon of this stuff around, might as well use it. So that's what I'm doing here, and it allows me the chance to put the glitter where I want it to go, build on the glitter if I need to, add more or less, and things like that. So sometimes I'll do several of these projects ahead of time all in one sitting, and then I will work on my resin later. So yeah, so I'm building up the glitters right now first, and then I'm gonna work on the black sand, and it's kind of a coarse black sand. It's almost like more of a crushed rock, but so the general idea that I've got for this piece, or at least in my head somewhat, and it's not real specific right now. It's just kind of a thought. It's like, I wonder if this would look good. I kind of want to create this landscapey kind of a look from, like, in the sky, you're looking down at the earth and you're really up high. You're not really getting the little square shapes of the farmland anymore. You're kind of getting rough little shapes of terrain and such. So this is kind of that imagery. It could be water, it could be something else. It's just general shapes and colors, and you might be able to pick up some textures. So that's basically the premise. And I've got a mold I'm going to be using on the side there, and that's another part of the process. And also these glitters are about 3 different sizes. The most coarse one is the dragon's teeth one. That's the triangular shaped one. The super fine one is the chameleon one. It does have a little bit of some chunky glitter mixed in with it. And then I would say the medium one is that black sand or the crushed rock. But that one absolutely has almost zero reflection. It's almost a very toned down color, a nice dark, like a charcoal gray kind of thing. And I hope that would give a little bit of an element of anchor point, and then the others would add some shimmer to it. But I'm going to play with resin in a way that it allows these things to kind of peek through. It's like, oh, what's that underneath it? What more will make sense later on. So I'm kind of rambling right now until I get to the more part. So yes, I am definitely picking up some glitter as I'm applying more glue in there. I'm not worried about it, because at some point I'm going to actually end up having some of the dragon's teeth on top of the chameleon, some of the chameleon on top of the the stone, and that's okay. It's not something that needs to be very, very critical that, this stay in its quadrant and this one stay in that quadrant. I'm not too worried about it right now. This could be messy. This is the ugly side of art sometimes. You have to go through the process in order to get to the finish line. So I'm just tapping up some areas that I think are a little bit on the well, it just needs more stuff. Let's just put it that way. A little bit too much wood coming through in some areas I wasn't real happy with, so I add a little bit more glue. And I do have other opportunities to add more color as I work with the resin. So yes, resin is going to be in play in this one. These dragon teeth, you've got to see them in person because they're just gorgeous. And of course I got too many bags, so I have to come up with some more projects. Let's see, what am I doing? It's fun doing the little voiceover on a project. It's like, what was I doing here? I might have been showing the people. Yep, that's exactly what I was doing. So every so often, okay, so Artapalooza, if you're not familiar with it, Tish Winters has a channel called The Artist Haven, and Artapalooza is one of her shows that she does on Wednesday, where she invites a bunch of different artists to come, and basically it's like a big old art party. We hang out together, we create whatever we're going to create, and the show lasts about an hour, and there's a lot of giggles, a lot of mayhem, some shenanigans, but a lot of pretty art comes out of this. And yeah, there's a lot of us that like dragons too, so that just, it seems like the more we get to know each other, the more we find out the similarities and stuff, which is really interesting. All right, so these are two molds that I got recently, and I'm primarily working on this one particular one with the scales on it. There's a smaller version of this one too. And what I'm using here is one of the metallic pigments from Just Resin. There's a bright gold, aluminum, and this copper one. And they just literally look like liquid metals. And they're really gorgeous. So I'm playing with having the copper mostly on one side. I'm okay with it coming off brushy like it's illustrated a bit. And I'm just loosely applying it to like mostly one side of the scale. It's one of those things, these fine pigments are picked up via static, and you'll see some of it just like lighting onto the sides of it. If you just barely bring your brush loaded up with this stuff to it, it's like it sprinkles all over the sides. It's really interesting. So I know when I go into this that it will deposit more copper than what I'm visually seeing because it's so fine. So keep that in mind if you do play with this and you want just a tiny bit, to only put less than what you think, because there will be more of it. It's really pretty when it comes out. I never regret it, unless I put entirely too much, but that's okay. So Chameleon Pigment will go on the other side of the scales, and both the powders that I'm going to use on the Chameleon are some of Artist Till Death's two-faced chameleons. So yeah, you guys have seen me use quite a bit of that, and you probably will see me use more of that because I got some more. I like the stuff. It's playing with light, playing with movement, anything to do with colors that have an effect that interact with other colors. Just really, I don't know, it's like colors are something that really inspire me a lot with creating. And so when they interact and they do other stuff, it's like it's like candy. So yeah, that's why you see me get excited. It's like, ooh, all the pretty colors. So I've got two colors that I'm going to be using. Red Queen, which I believe is a red and a gold mixture, meaning that depending on how the light moves on it, sometimes it shows off red, sometimes it shows off gold. And then the other one is Grumpy, and I believe that's a purple and blue shift. So the Red Queen is going to go, I believe I've applied it to most of the areas. And then the Grumpy one, I'm going to have it on just one side with the Red Queen also. And that way, if like it's like, you know how sometimes light comes over a mountain and sometimes will shine on one area but not all the areas because of different features of either the mountain or other things in front. So I'm kind of doing that a little bit. So the ultimate goal that I want to have done here is what comes out of these molds, apply it to the tray so he's kind of flying over top. So I kind of got to give the illusion a little bit of light on there. I may have to do a little bit of acrylic painting on top of it to help out with that. I don't know. We'll have to see how he comes off. And again, I'm taking a risk because I'm using the copper, and sometimes copper can really overpower. And if it does, I'll just, go with plan B. All right, I did use a tiny bit. Okay. I was trying to remember if I used a tiny bit or a whole lot of it. Now, if you ever want to see what these things look like, put it on either a little bit on your hand. The two-faced ones are safe for skin. So if you rub it on your hand, you can see it move and shift a bunch. So what I'm doing there with the Red Queen is I'm just taking the additional space and blending the Grumpy and the Red Queen into the copper. So it's going to give just a little hint of the Grumpy in there, not a lot. Alright, so since I've got a lot of people in the dark, I figured I'd go ahead and bring you in. So I've got a couple different colors going on in the background of this tray. Now, it doesn't seem real exciting right now, but what I'm doing is kind of trying to create almost a landscapey kind of a look to it, but also have some things in there that shimmer and add kind of an earthy element to it, and maybe possibly some water. But the other part that is on this piece is this particular mold here. What I'm going to do is obviously fill it up with some resin, but it's not going to be too thick. And what I'm going to do is put it over top so that it's like it's flying over the landscape. So I'm going to play with some wispies and stuff like that, both under and over, and hopefully tie everything in together. But let me go back to this little guy here. So what I did here is, notice this copper color. I hit it with copper on one particular side here, and then I hit it with chameleons coming from the other side. I introduced a little bit of Grumpy on this side, thinking that maybe light's hitting it from a different angle. I don't know. But the raised edges here, I'll probably hit that with a little bit of paint after the resin comes out of the mold so that the paint can get in there and make these little crevices in here dark. So I'm not too worried about them at this level here. But this guy ought to be nice and shimmery when it comes out. And so it brings it to the forefront. And with these dark colors, that goes into the background. So that's why the different colors. So that's loosely the plan right now. So I'm going to pour some resin on this guy, and hopefully the next time you see me on Artapalooza, I've got some parts to play with. Yeah. All right, so you know what to do. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, but definitely hit the bell to get notified next time I put a video up. But wait, there's more. Description down below, I'll put in there any links to any of the supplies I use, as well as a link to my Etsy store, because I'm being a good girl and I'm actually putting my art up on my Etsy store. So check it out, and I'll see you later.